because a lot of the people who are complaining, they're not doing their job to balance it out, right? So if you don't like it, then why don't you throw a jam? Why don't you do something that you would like to see to bring that balance? That's my take on it.
Welcome back to Stance Elements. I'm Chaz B. I am your host, and we've got something a little different here. Usually, with Stance, you'll see us posting regular content for a while, hype moments and concept videos and stuff, and then there'll be a dry spell and you won't see much from us. And then a little while later, regular content again, the hype moments, all the battle footage, everything like that we all enjoy. Then there's a while where you don't see much from us again. So we all got together and we thought, what's the best way for us to give our loyal followers something to watch on a consistent basis? What can we share that our loyal followers can engage with and watch without those dry spells? And this is it. So I am delighted to be joined by Elniño from the Floor Lords crew out of USA. Really good to see you, brother. How we doing?
Doing very well, doing very well. Thanks for having me, brother.
Oh, you're very welcome, man. The last time we saw each other was at the Red Bull BC One. Talk
Sure.
to me about your experience there at the Red Bull BC One. How did you find the whole week?
Yeah, kudos to, Catch the Flavor. You know what I mean? They put on like a great pre-event. I was sitting next to you during the over the top battle, and we kind of got a chance to chop it up a little bit there. So just starting off right off back, it was like really hype. You know what I mean? Just watching the battles before the actual main event, and then of course like going into the arena on the main event. Seeing everybody's faces like just focused. Trying to stay, in their heads for the battle. It brought me back to that moment. That's a very like tense moment when you're backstage before the main event. But I was just like focused on like judging, because I had to judge, right? So I was just like in my head about that. Like, I know BC1 is one of the biggest events. It's like our Super Bowl, so I just really wanted to make the right calls and focus on making the right calls, because every year a judge might make a bad call, and then you get all the comments, people go crazy on you. So I was like, let me try to be as fair as possible. I try to do that every time I'm judging, but there's another level of scrutiny, if you will, when you're judging BC1. So it's a huge job and a huge responsibility. And I think I did my best, and I didn't get any hate for it. So I think I did a good job.
Like when you're watching battles like that, what are you usually looking for? I mean, we hear the usual, like you have to be musical, you have to be original, but then sometimes the votes that we see don't line up to what they're saying. So like for you, what does that look like? What were the things that you were looking for?
I think on the BC1 stage, one of the things I look for is like comfortability. If you're a newer up and coming cat, sometimes you can kind of see like the jitters on stage. You can see some of the mess ups and stuff like that. So I noticed that, but overall, I was really impressed with everybody. I think everybody was just really hype, on both sides, the B boys and the B girls. Obviously, highlights of that night was for me, obviously Flea Rock and Nadia. I think they both brought, on both sides, the B-boy side and the B-girl side, they definitely brought, that essence to the stage. It would have been nice to see them take it all the way, the whole way. Um, but yeah, it was cool. I think logistics winning was amazing. I was super happy for her. And Amir, I think, just like kind of shocked shocked everybody that he came out on top. But he's a new up and coming talent. I mean, I wouldn't say new. I don't know how long he's been breaking, but he's definitely new to us, new to the world, and new to like making a name for himself. And I just like the fact that he really thinks different. A lot of his moves are, if when most people would go left, he would go right. When most people would go right, he'll go left. And I think that's something that's really special about him, and he kind of just stuck out in that regard. But yeah, everybody was killing it, man. Lee, Supreme, Nadia, Vavi, just a couple of names that stuck out to me of that night, that I was like, man, I'm gonna keep an eye out for that person. This person is really dope. So shout out to them.
Yeah, because there were a lot of surprises that night. The Flea Rock battle with Sugar Kicks. I think when you think about like whatever a
Battle of the
highlight
night.
is, that was a crazy moment. But here's the thing, bro, and one thing I want to ask you: you were the only judge that voted the other way. So in that battle, what were your thoughts and what made you vote the way that you voted?
Well, I try to like take the emotions out of it. Obviously, Flea Rock is my homie, and I'm closer to him. So I tried not to be biased about it, and I tried not to really pay attention to the hype of the crowd and really zero in and do my job as a judge. I think overall, like I understand why Flea won. And first of all, in that moment too, that was the hardest battle to judge of the night. I actually was flopping back and forth. And like Amjad was like, it was up to the very last moment. Amjad was kind of like 3, 2, 1. And I was like, like it was crazy. It was really crazy. That was hard. But I think for me, it just came up to like the slip ups that Flea Rock had. He had a little bit of slip ups on the first and the third round. Overall, I think as far as battle tactics, I gave that to him. You know what I mean? Obviously, he brought Shigekix into his world. I just wanted to see a little bit more as far as moves. And then I rewatched the battle on YouTube again, and like I stand by my decision. I think Flea had a little bit of a slip up in the first round, like after the head spins, and I think on the BC1 stage, you have to be like flawless. You know what I mean? You can't really be having. So I seen him have a little bit of slip ups on the third round. He did a combination that I felt was just a little slow, a little sluggish, and a little sloppy. So first and third round, I gave him the second round, the John Wick round. I just gave that to him because he kind of just like brought all the energy out of Shigekix and brought the crowd on his side. So, first round I gave to Shigekix, second round I gave to Flea Rock. So in the third round, I was kind of waiting for Flea to like seal the deal, like seal it for me, and I didn't get that for me, you know what I mean? But I think overall, all aspects, like I spoke to Flea Rock after it, and he was kind of like, yo, but I'm older, it's like third round, I'm older than him. I battled him the way I should have. So in that regard, thinking about it from that regard, like, yeah, it could have went either way. I just felt all 3 rounds, Shigekix didn't mess up, and also on the third round, in terms of like sealing the deal, I know everyone's what do you call their signature moves, right? So I know Shigekix does the halo and then he drops to his shoulder. We've all seen him do it before, but when he did it, he actually like rotated and like got kind of lucky. He did a couple of shoulder spins right after the halo. So that was like, for me, I was like, oh, like, damn, like not only did he kill his signature move, he actually like kind of got lucky. So I give extra points sometimes for that, for like the wow factor, which Flea Rock had the wow factor in the second round, and I thought in the third round, Shigekix had that wow factor when he just got kind of lucky on that final move. And that was it. That's what kind of sealed the deal for me. Well, like I said, it really in my head, I was like flip flopping back and forth, like, damn, Flea Rock, Shigekix, Flea Rock. You know what I mean? So that was really tough. That was a hard battle to judge, for real. Probably one of the hardest battles ever for me to try to make a decision.
Yeah, like is there a conversation to be had about the way that people dance in the circles and how that translates to the larger the events? Because I think we've seen it in the past where you have high hopes for a dancer that you see like kill it at the smaller events, then they get to the main stages and it doesn't seem to work out for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think there's a lot of battles. that you watch on the big stage, and if you take that same battle, those same rounds, and put it in a cipher setting, that everybody would think the other person won. So I think like breakers should just keep in mind that like when you're on a big stage, it is kind of, you got to kind of put some showmanship in there. It's more than just the moves. And me, the way I dance too is always like move driven. Like I try to really put my moves in there, and I want people to see the difference. But when you're on a stage, a big stage, you gotta kind of like, bring people into your world. And so yeah, it's definitely different. I think me personally, I'm more of a cipher small event b-boy. I think I do better in those events, but I have won big events. um it's just I'm not into like the gimmicks. I try to like prove everything in my dance and not be so gimmicky. But sometimes those things work, those things work on the big stage. People love it. Like I think about the moment that in India when Kilakoya, did when he stopped and did this, like everybody kind of just loved it. So sometimes it's the small things that could really make a big difference on a big stage.
Yeah, and this has been one of the main concerns about the Olympics, where how much of a difference will it be from the events that we normally see? Will people be dancing much differently to how we're usually seeing them? You're talking about the showmanship, you're talking about the wow factor, but then the first thing that people talk about is that, well, this is an art form, and like everything about that. So for us going into the Olympics in a few years of time, how do you see things like playing out with this moves versus movement thing, you know?
Yeah. Well, I try to pay attention to who has won so far. So like going back to even the Youth Olympics, I think Bumblebee won, right? And
Yeah.
even though Bumblebee is more of a powerhead, he also has great form in his footwork, and he also throws footwork in his stuff, and which makes him a little bit more complete. And then I think of Victor, who just won, and he's a very complete b-boy. So I think we're all trying our best, to keep the art form uh, the way it should be presented on the Olympic stage. And I think the judges are aware of that too. That's why it's important the judges you get, because you got to be aware of everything. You got to be aware of the crowd, the dancers, aware of like how important the decisions are. And I think that's the importance of like the system, the trivium system that we've been using. I'm okay with it. I think to me, Victor's one of the most complete b-boys out there right now, and he won. So I think that's a testament to the system working, and also the amount of judges, as well. It kind of makes it like you really got to prove your point, to get all of these judges decisions. And I also think that it's on our responsibility to balance things out. So if we feel like things are getting too commercial with the Olympics, then we have to balance it out some way, somehow. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I think that's up to us, up to the companies, Red Bull and Monster and some of the other companies that are supporting us to help us kind of balance that out. You know what I mean? And I think we need to, as far as for the new generation, we need to invest a little bit more in like education, panels, make this a little bit more available and accessible to the new generation. Because I feel like they're not doing their due diligence. Because they just want to dance, right? Like that's the main thing, that's what they want to do. Um, Whereas for us, in my era, in the '90s era, it was kind of like that was part of your training, was to go back and like study the legends before you. Whereas now it's a little bit different, right? You can't really blame the kids, but um, I'm not too worried about it, because I think we can always pull back and balance things out ourselves as a community. That's really up to us.
That makes a lot of sense, and it's good that you have a balance in the way that you think about it, because some people are like, it's over commercialized, it shouldn't really be in our culture. Then you get people that are like, it isn't about the culture anyway, it's just another event, but it's on a bigger scale, so it's not
Right.
exactly for everyone anyway.
Right, exactly. I think it's just another platform. You know, if you want to keep it raw and you just go to cipher jams or go to jams and just cipher. Don't even enter the competition. You know, that's what my crew used to do. Like in the 90s, Flow Lords, for many years, we went to jams and we went to just cipher. Like we didn't start really entering until like the late 90s. You know what I mean? So I think it's in the scene, we got all these different platforms providing things for us, and you take advantage of what you want to take advantage of, right? You know, if you just want to go to jams for the ciphers, you can go to freestyle session and just hit the ciphers, or you can go to cipher addicts if that's more your thing, right? And also with the Olympics, you know, I always say obviously we got qualifiers in between, but I think also like it's only every 4 years, you know. So in between that, you know, we can be throwing our own jams, our own raw jams, you know what I mean? And locally, you know what I mean? Locally. I know here, you know, in Boston, in my city, we do small stuff all the time. That's just grassroots jams that I go at and support. We just had one, you know, a couple weeks, 2 weeks ago, and it was really dope. And it was like organic and raw, and you know, I judged it, and it was cool to see the local scene coming back out after like 2 years, you know, of being locked up and dealing with the pandemic and stuff. So yeah, you know, I think that's our responsibility as a community to do things to help balance it out
Word.
instead of just complaining, you know, because a lot of the people who are complaining, they're not doing their job to balance it out, right? So if you don't like it, then why don't you throw a jam? Why don't you do something that you would like to see to bring that balance? That's my take on it.
Word. And the last thing I'll ask you, you've just got the studio now, you have your own spot. Tell us
Yeah.
how that all came about and what your hopes are for the future with it.
Yeah, so I just opened up Flow Lord Studios, a dance studio here in the Cambridge area, and basically it kind of came out of necessity, right? Like during the pandemic, we lost our practice spot, so it kind of started off like that, like yo, we need a place to practice. Got tired of like bouncing around from place to place, so I was like, man, you know, we need our own spot, you know, and so I found a spot, collaborated with some people, and it started off as just our practice spot. We would practice there Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then I had Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and Saturday open. So now I just started opening it up to the rest of the community as well, not just the breakers. Just trying to support dance and dancers in general. So now we got hip hop choreo class, we got crump class, we got dance hall, we got locking. You know, I'm looking to put popping in there. So really, it's turned from a space of for breakers to practice to now a space for dance in general and trying to support. And that's a real goal of mine is connecting the scene. Because during the pandemic, we also had a couple dance studios closed down. We actually recently had another dance studio in Brookline that closed down because of a fire. So, you know, there's a bunch of dancers in the city right now scrambling for a place. So I just wanted to be that just of service to my community, you know, and open up this spot to everybody, you know, all walks of life. And then another thing too is I started teaching. So my time is very, very limited, but I started teaching kids because I believe in the youth. I believe that's what I got to focus on. And there's part of the Olympics in there too. Like I want to, you know, help groom the next generation to become the next world champion or the next gold medalist or whatever they want to do with it. But I'm trying to focus on the youth, you know, because breaking is so high level now that I believe you really got to get to the kids first. You got to get them young and you know, teach them, for them really to grow up and fall in love with the culture, and you know, become, you know, our next generation that's going to be killing it, you know. So yeah, I've been just focused on that during these 2 years. You know, there's a lot less events, a lot less traveling, so I kind of shifted my focus towards that. And it's been cool. It's been a real blessing, for real.
That's amazing, man. Well, look, really appreciate you being here, man. Thank you very much for all of your time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, brother, for sure, man. It was good to see you at BC1, and hopefully we get to see each other soon. Thank you, Stance, for reaching out. Thank you, Chaz. You know what I mean? Much love. And I'll see you guys on the next one.